Hey, thank you for joining me. Hope you're doing well. The Tree of Life, or World Tree, is described in various ancient texts and mythologies throughout the world. The World Tree is typically said to be a giant tree extending high above the clouds with its roots deep in the underworld. Yggdrasil is a colossal tree in Norse mythology. Vilagfa is a tree whose roots extend into the underworld in Hungarian mythology. We see this in the Ashvatha in Hindu mythology, the Kienmu in Chinese mythology, and the cosmic tree in Latvian mythology. The Mayan world tree is depicted also standing at the center, extending into the underworld. The Aztecs had a tree of life as well. The Assyrians had a world tree. The Egyptians' holy sycamore connected to the underworld. Belay is a Celtic god often represented as a tree, whose roots go to the depths beyond the earth. There's many more, but I'll stop there. The similarities in these stories spread throughout the world are not a coincidence. Roots extending into the underworld, the depiction of the tree at the center. This is because the truth is being hidden in plain sight. The Tree of Life was real. It's not just a coincidence that all these cultures talked about it. It extended out from the underbelly of our plane, and from it came the other large trees. It was one giant organism. So we're already aware that mountains and plateaus are the stumps of giant trees that were cut down. This truth was boldly hidden in plain sight in James Cameron's Avatar. The main tree of souls was cut down along with the other trees, forcing the inhabitants to leave. The Colonial described the depicted Tree of Life as one big damn tree before destroying it. This actually happened. The Tree of Life was cut down along with the other beautiful majesties. Stay with me. We've been fed the reversal of truth with everything. We're told the underworld, or hell, is a horrible place that nobody should ever want to enter. The underworld is rarely depicted as a pleasant place. It's often riddled with horrors and tormented souls. In Babylonian mythology, the underworld, or Kala, is seen as a more dreary version of life above. The Buddhist Naraka is a place full of terrible things, like cold that blisters the skin and rocks that crush your body to jelly. The Chinese Diu is equally as unpleasant. In Christianity, we have hell residing underneath the world, and Jahannam in Islam. Duat in Egyptian mythology is the same thing, and so on and so forth. So we've been told for thousands of years that underneath our feet lies a place of terrible horrors, a place where no man would ever willingly travel to. This is psychological warfare and complete bullshit. It's been used to confuse us. As we know, on our flat plane, at the center there resides an opening. When we go through this opening, we come out the other end and into the land of perpetual twilight, a place powered by the black sun. Heaven, or paradise, isn't up high as it's typically depicted in popular culture, but it's beneath our feet. All compasses point to this paradise, all bullseyes do, and many other symbols which I discuss in other videos. In Avatar, the Tree of Souls was said to be the closest connection to Eywa on Pandora. Eywa, put simply, is our connection with the Mother Earth, the divine feminine. When the Tree of Life was cut down, our connection with the underworld dwindled, and along with the Saturn moon matrix and many other disturbances, we're now confused, confined, and fragmented. We're supposed to be telepathic. We're supposed to be loving each other through our hearts, the center of our soul. The system we're currently in is unnatural, toxic, and imprisoning us. Life used to be silica-based, and now it's carbon-based. Carbon, as we know, has 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons, the mark of the beast. The truth might be difficult to digest, but we can get to the underbelly of our plane. We can transcend this mess by being real with ourselves and rising past these frequencies that bind us. I'll be discussing more in future videos. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Hey, thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. We should know by now that mountains and plateaus are not rock formations, but the stumps of giant trees that were cut down. They were silica-based, not carbon-based like today's trees. Watch the video No Forests on Flat Earth if you haven't yet explored this topic. Silicon Valley is what pushes all technology today, and it gets its name because silicone is great at storing and processing information. Computer chips are made from silicone, and this is why they're able to hold so much information. Quartz is a silicate made of pure silica, and many crystals used in healing and New Age circles today are variations of quartz. Clear quartz is known as the master healer and can unlock psychic abilities. So much of what we're digging up as far as crystals are actually the remnants of these giant silica-based trees. In James Cameron's Avatar, which is actually a history of our not-so-distant past, the natives communicated with these spectacular trees and were given divine information. Imagine the information a tree could hold made of silica. All of these trees extended from the tree of life at the center of our plane by a vast root system. It was one giant organism. What we think to be a cave system is actually an old root system. These trees were huge, and so were their roots. Side by side, a carbon-based root system is strikingly similar to the cave systems, the silica-based roots. Gems and crystals are most abundant in caves. As we know, trees have a complex root system where they're able to communicate with one another. Trees can transport carbon dioxide, water, and other hidden information we can't detect with our senses through their root systems. If you've ever been in a room with tons of large quartz, amethyst, etc., you know that the energy is powerful. Crystals have been known to store information, and this is why they oftentimes require energetic cleansing. Imagine what kind of information and energy was circulating among this worldwide system of trees powered by the same material. And we're told that quartz is a rock-forming mineral. Now, this definitely makes sense. So think about it. How can a cave be constructed naturally out of the ground? We're given the bullshit answer that limestone gets dissolved over time and forms caves. But again, these systems are all too similar to that of a root system. Most rivers used to be filled with these roots as well. The rivers contained the above ground roots, while the caves in part contained the below ground roots. Just some speculation. Look at these photos of giant crystals inside of cave systems. This is insane. I'm proposing all of these giant root systems used to contain as many of these crystals, but were stripped of them and are now lifeless. I mean, just look at some of the caves without crystals. To me, they appear stripped. They look dead. An uprooted tree shows small roots in various sizes hanging from the bottom. Stalactites and stalagmites are very similar to this. Again, keep in mind these trees were enormous and way sturdier, made of thicker material. So somebody has harvested these minerals and crystals. Where petrified wood is, we see sand. Petrified wood is made of precious gems and crystalline structures. When we compare this wood to the floors and sides of mountains, we see the similar gradient patterns. Pieces of petrified wood are pieces of these ancient trees. In these inland areas with large amounts of sand and in deserts, there's no access to the ocean, so the sand isn't coming from there. And what is this sand made of? Sand in inland areas are made of mostly silica and other materials, including forms of quartz. When a regular tree is cut down, dust flies. It starts covering the ground. I think you know what I'm getting at. Inland sand and deserts are not naturally forming, but were made from bits of silica and minerals that flew off of these organisms as they were cut down. As Vlad Hangen pointed out, some of the ancient Toltec pottery suggests that what's being depicted aren't merely crocodiles, but the quarry excavators used to get rid of these trees, that we still use to this day. The ancient people probably saw these monstrosities and assume they were animals rather than man-made technology. Mount Meru is the magnetic mountain that lies at the center of our plane at the Arctic. The Tree of Life used to stand at the center, and it was cut down. As we know, mountains are tree stumps. It's said that the Tree of Life was encased in Mount Meru, but I'm speculating that Mount Meru is the remnants of the Tree of Life. In this Buddhist depiction, we see a vortex below the mountain, representing the vortex we go through when we enter the center. On this Mount Meru art piece from the Yuan dynasty, I couldn't help but notice how similar it looks to the Holy Grail, which when we drink from, we achieve everlasting life and abundant happiness. The Holy Grail, as we know, is an allegory for the center of our plane. Look at the Norse Tree of Life, Yggdrasil. Now look at this piece. Instead of a tree, there's a mountain, but the roots are still at the bottom. This tells me Mount Meru was the Tree of Life. On the maps of Hyperborea, there's a mountain placed at the center. There's 4 rivers coming out of it. On this Phoenician seal depicting Mount Meru, we see 4 streams extending out. This Navajo sand painting represents the 4 rivers as well, and X marks the spot. There's also 4 mountains surrounding what we know to be Mount Meru. These 4 mountains are seen throughout many depictions. This is a Hindu painting. Again, we see the 4 rivers converging to the center. The Garden of Eden was also said to have 4 rivers. I want to mention that in most of these depictions of Mount Meru and the Tree of Life, there's reference to the underworld. The underworld is where we want to go. They've tried to confuse us by telling us heaven is up high and hell beneath our feet. This is the reverse of truth. We want to go down under. That is where we will find heaven, where we must go to so we can exit this matrix and into a land of paradise. Plato described Atlantis as being shaped like 3 concentric circles of land divided by water, the shape of a bullseye. Mount Meru is said to be an invisible mountain. René Dalmal, a French writer, penned an unfinished novel in 1952 in which his characters theorize that Mount Meru, what he calls Mount Analog, is real and located at one of the poles. In the book, he calls the mountain the door to the invisible. One of the characters proposes that the mountain itself is invisible because it's made of a material so dense that it bends light. This is considered a fiction work, but it still reveals to us many things about Mount Meru. The substrata of this territory are composed of material which have the property of inducing curvature in such a way that the region is encased in a shell of curved space. The author gives this illustration along with these words. The character explains there would be an optical illusion where you wouldn't even notice the mountain there and would naturally bend around the force field of curved space. He says the shell of curvature which surrounds the island is not absolutely impenetrable. That is not always, not everywhere, and not for everyone. At a certain moment and in a certain place, certain persons, those who know how and wish to do so, can enter. What this tells me is we need to be vibrating at a high enough frequency as to where this mountain and area around the mountain will become visible. Just like how the flaming sword put to guard Eden and Heimdallr in Norse mythology protects the bridge to Asgard, there is a force field around the mountain which will only let us in if we are of pure intent and heart-centered. So in the meantime, we must intend to create heaven on earth. Think only with our hearts and keep working on connecting with Earth's energy via sun-gazing and earthing. We can communicate with the sun, speak our intent towards it, and the same thing with the divine feminine energy that seeps through the soles of our feet when we earth. When we ask for guidance and help to be filled with love, knowledge, and the wisdom of the ages, we receive it. Ask and thou shalt receive. Soon enough, we're going to be drinking from the Holy Grail. We will enter Hyperborea, the Garden of Eden, Atlantis, Shambhala, whatever you want to call it. For those of you who haven't yet, search blood over intent and place your blood beside ours. This is the beginning of taking off the blinders this matrix has put on us. Look it up, do some reading, and when you're ready, upload your blood over your divine intent next to the rest of ours. We will all be blood brothers and sisters in this journey to Mount Meru. Hope you're all great. Stay centered. I love you all.
If you take the time to investigate the origin of some common device, you'll often find an interesting story. This compass, for instance. We all know what it is. It's a device for determining magnetic north. Hold the compass still and level, and in a few seconds, the needle aligns with the Earth's magnetic field and indicates magnetic north. Once north is established, the other cardinal directions, south, east, and west, are also determined. In our modern culture, north is given prominence. We reference north to determine the other cardinal points. This was not always the case. It appears that for many ancient cultures, east was the most important. This seems reasonable. Many linguists believe that the words representing the cardinal points originated in an ancient ancestor language called Proto-Indo-European, the root language for almost 50% of the languages spoken today. The word east is derived from an early word for dawn. Standing at dawn, facing the sun, we are looking east. The word north is descended from the same language group and is derived from an ancient term that meant to the left of. Pointing to the left while watching the sun, and you are pointing north. West is derived from an ancient term that referred to evening twilight, and you are facing west. South derives from a word for sun or region of the sun. Face the sun at midday and you are looking south. The labels on your compass have ancient roots. The magnetic compass has been around for a long time. We don't know who first discovered that a magnetized iron needle will align itself pointing north and south, but the first serious use of magnetism appears to have occurred in China, with reference in Chinese literature going back to the 4th century BC. This balanced magnetized spoon from the Han Dynasty aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field. The handle of the spoon points south. This assists in the alignment of sacred structures, homes, and burial sites according to the tenets of Feng Shui. It is likely that a device like the south-seeking spoon was an important step in the evolution of the compass, and the Chinese may have been the first to realize that a magnetic device capable of independently determining direction would be a powerful aid to navigation at sea. Early navigation at sea was accomplished by following shorelines and observing the sun and stars. Attempts to travel great distances at sea often ended in disaster when dense fog descended, leaving the ship blind. Sailing in circles, the voyage often ended with a shipwreck on a rocky shoreline. The appearance of the compass changed that. The rotating magnetized needle reliably found and displayed north, confirming the direction the ship was sailing, even in a dense fog. You're probably familiar with the basic interactions of magnets. Magnets strongly attract three metals: iron, nickel, and cobalt. A magnet has a north pole and south pole. Opposite poles attract. Like poles repel. The North Pole is defined as the end of the magnet that is attracted towards the Earth's geographic North Pole. The Earth has a magnetic field. This field originates in molten iron at the North Pole of a magnet is attracted toward the north. A compass consists of a magnetized needle, free to rotate, with the cardinal directions printed on a dial or bezel ring. Holding the compass level and steady for a few seconds, the magnet locks on and indicates magnetic north. We can rotate the compass and align the needle with north on the dial. This also orients the cardinal points. We have determined magnetic north, south, east, and west. There is a problem. It turns out there's another north, true north, and it differs from magnetic north.
You're living on a flat earth plane, and every compass is pointing to the very center, where you will find your exit out of the matrix and into the land of perpetual twilight. It is that simple. X marks the spot. It's rubbed in your face on everything. It's like you're a silly human slave who knows nothing of truth. I'm informing you, the earth is flat, and it has an exit hole. Every compass is pointing to it, the Garden of Eden, everlasting life, the Holy Grail. It's right over there. And you're going to remain in slavery if I don't make videos. So I'll do this on my own. That means your life is in my hands. You don't have to like it.
You hear what I said? The world is ours. All you need to do is place your blood beside my own, and you will be allowed into the Garden of Eden. I put up gallons upon gallons of blood for this post, people. And all that energy I stole from the universe is now directed at heaven on earth, and nobody can stop it. Everybody was so blind they couldn't see anything until I showed them. So, heaven's coming to earth, nobody can stop it. I sacrificed years and years and years of blood, and then I directed it all at heaven and earth. And this world's mine, everyone else is lost at sea. In the next couple of years, you're going to see how the world transitions, and you'll see nobody can stop me. So when you leave those silly messages, this and that, listen, I'm uniting the dark and the light, the good and the bad, and no soul left behind.
I had called out Black John in the previous video, and I see his blood over intent video published to YouTube, side by side, blood thicker than water with his brethren. My hat's off to you, John. We're in this together. You know, I was watching Jay Dreamer's video yesterday, and he had said that blood is demonic somehow. You know, I have a bunch of blood donation certificates that state that I was giving life to people, that, you know, they were in a bad situation and needed blood. And I'm O positively getting to the Holy Grail at the center of the dish. I put my blood up for the benefit of all, gallons of it. And I'm telling you, blood represents life. You just gave life to the universe when you put up your blood. You gained the favor of the goddess of the earth, for sure. You're here by divine order to bring forth heaven on earth for the benefit of all. And when you look out there, they love the fact that they're on a ball floating through space as an accident. They cling to the idea that God and Goddess, this creation idea, doesn't exist, when it really does. And they were fed the reverse of truth. So I can see stuff nobody can see because I have the favor of the Goddess of the earth. I'm here to bring forth heaven and earth. I put up literally gallons of blood. And what I'm telling you is that it is this simple, and you're going to get those powers. You're going to see it for yourself.
I don't see how spilling up gallons of blood to bring forth heaven on earth in anybody's name or any God's name, okay, is satanic. So if that's what you think it is, and I've stolen the power of that, you just don't see it yet, and nobody can stop me. You just don't know it. I put up gallons and gallons of blood to bring forth heaven and earth, and whatever knowledge you've got after placing your blood beside my own, look, I don't need to get revenge on anybody because I know how the universe works. Okay, when you let the universe get revenge for you, the universe does it like 10 times worse for some reason. Okay, the key is to stick by your blood brothers. I don't rise up against any of my blood brothers. Everybody has a reptilian gene in them.
And the fact of the matter is that everybody here, and I look at this audience and it's representative of the country, everybody here is connected in some fashion. And our success and our children's success is tied up together. And so I think most Americans feel that way. But what is still true is that there's still kind of a reptilian side of our brain, right? That part of our brain that if somebody looks different or sounds different, that there's a part of us that is cautious. And what we have to do is fight against that, and that's part of what Shirley Sherrod was trying to say in the speech. If you actually read the whole speech, she was acknowledging, I have my own biases based on my experiences, but if I am able to look inward and reflect, then I can get beyond my biases. And that's an exercise that all of us have to undergo day in, day out, and it's a constant struggle, and it's something that there's nobody in America who doesn't have to at some point think about their own racial attitudes.
Can I ask
but if
you
we
about
do,
that?
then I think there's no reason we can't overcome it.
You're 7 generations removed from it now, and now you can go back to the Garden of Eden, okay? I have the Holy Spirit. Nobody can stop me. I am literally the Prince of Darkness. I've got gallons and gallons of blood on it, and I'm redirecting all that energy towards heaven and earth. It's just that simple. You don't have to like it, but it is that simple.
You'll see my haters out there, but, it doesn't really matter if they hate on me, because in the end, you're going to see that we're going to be all drinking from the living waters, that nobody can stop me.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Nobody can stop me. You don't have to like it. All I have to do is sit here from the comfort of home making videos pointing at the obvious, and eventually we'll get there. Enough people will wake up. You have the light hole sun, the black hole sun. You close your eyes, you make a wish. You know that this is the creating where everything's birthed from. Okay, you're birthed into this world through your mother. You're going to be birthed out of this world through your mother, because you're going to go through the Holy of Holies, where every compass points you. The thing that was hidden from you, you think you're on a ball floating through space is an accident. If I don't spell it out for them, nobody will. And I know how to do some pretty cool stuff because I've connected with what Thoth. You get all your magic and all your knowledge from Thoth. It's got 1,000 names. You need to come up with one of these million gods' names out there, and you're going to attach by writing out on a piece of paper, I intend to bring forth heaven on earth, and get everybody to the Holy of Holies before they're dead. And you're going to you're going to sign it as some new god or a goddess. If you're a woman, you're going to pick a goddess. Like I had picked the Antichrist at Figure 5. I published it. Now I've gone 360 degrees, and I've captured the ability to go out there and protest specific stuff outwardly to the world, and nobody would contest it because I'm here to bring forth heaven on earth. Why would you even try to stop me? It's for the benefit of all. You get everlasting life. You get your way into the Garden of Eden. It's just as simple. We leave heaven in our wake here. Okay, these tentacles used to reach out like the giant force that used to spread it across the earth. The astral light coming out of the black hole. Every compass is pointing to it. It's hitting the parabolic mirror, showering down on you right now. But you haven't connected to the elemental. So like the L, you're going to write this out. You're going to put it on video. You're going to place it right beside my own under blood over intent specifically. And you will, in 360 degrees, you will grab elemental powers out of the universe simply by protesting it in the way I did in the Prince of Darkness Speaks video. And like I protested in another video that I am the Vicar of Christ, and then I played the British version, the British show that I did. So what I'm saying is that by doing this into the Ethernet, what I'm doing is I'm weaving it in, I'm gaining the elemental powers, and this is what you want to do, people. It's just as simple. Place your blood beside my own. You get my powers automatically in 360 degrees. It's just speeding up, people. It's getting faster and faster and faster, so it makes sense that you would, wherever I'm at now, in another 360 degrees, you should be getting this type of stuff if your blood's beside my own, because it's built into the ether. Every thought you have, a shimmer comes off your head, just like the heat in the distance on the road, and it's written into reality. The sun is the collective consciousness of the whole. I look into the sun tells me everything. I don't care what you think, I'm telling you, it is this simple, whether you believe it or not. This is how you take over the universe. Everybody, we need to have a super league of gods out there under blood over intent. In the name, I was in the name of this and this, you got to pick something new. I'm not that creative. You need to come. All I can see is the Holy of Holies at the center of the dish. Now, you have to come up with those, dig up something, some god of your heritage or something. But it's just as simple. And we're going to reach out through the Ethernet, the crack in the universe that someone created. And it is this simple. And we're going to bring everybody to the center of the dish where we get heaven on earth. Because once we drink from the living waters, you'll be a super being. To kill anybody with this, it wouldn't make sense, because it would be like nuclear bombs trying to blow up nuclear bombs. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. You're on a higher level of consciousness at this point, because you've attached your intent to the heaven on earth thing, and then you've grabbed all the elemental powers from anything that people thought was evil and then directed it directly at heaven on earth. And then in 360 degrees, the people who put their blood up in the name of those things grab the elemental, like in your head powers, so you can take over the world from the comfort of home. It doesn't get any easier than that. It is that simple. I hope you get the picture.
Hey, thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. Mythology and legends are not simply stories, but often complex allegories for the true workings of our past, present, and future. Midgard is one of the 9 worlds in Norse mythology. It's the realm of the humans, Earth. Midgard refers to our flat plane. It's said to be surrounded by a world of water that is impassable. This could be interpreted as the ice wall, the frozen water that surrounds our plane. Midgard is connected to Asgard, the home of the gods, by a rainbow bridge known as the Bifrost. Time passes slowly in Asgard and is a place of abundance, bliss, and joy. The Bifrost Bridge is known as the Shimmering Path, the swaying road to heaven, and the bridge between Earth and the underworld. Heimdallr is the protector of the Bifrost Bridge. He is known as the guardian of the gods. He is the boundary figure deciding who goes in and out of the Bifrost. Heimdallr is often depicted near Yggdrasil, the Norse tree of life, and is sometimes even the personification of this tree. As we know, the Tree of Life stood at the center of our plane, right near the opening, where all compasses point to come pass. In the Marvel movie Thor, Heimdallr tells the travelers if your return threatens the safety of Asgard, Bifrost will remain closed. Upon traveling through the Bifrost, they are sent into a vortex and into another world. What I'm saying is this complex mythology is telling us, at the center of our plane near where the Tree of Life stood, there exists an opening where upon entering, we go through a vortex and into a parallel world like Asgard, where time, money, and deception do not exist, and where it truly is a home of the gods. We are all gods, and we've had our divinity hidden from us. Now is the age of discovery. The Bifrost Bridge is said to lead to a well. Just like how those who drink from the Holy Grail achieve everlasting life and infinite happiness, the same goes for those who drink from this well. I want to mention that the Holy Grail is an allegory for the center of our plane. Jesus the Son is said to have drank from the Holy Grail during the Last Supper, which is an allegory for the winter solstice. During the solstice, the Son, or Jesus, moves in and out of the center crater and, quote, drinks from the Grail. Grail ultimately comes from the word kratalis, meaning crater, a holy crater at the center of our plane. At the end times battle, Heimdallr will face Loki, and they will kill one another. Loki is the Norse equivalent of Satan, or Saturn. This story is telling us that at the end of time, literally when the construct of time ends, is when Saturn worship, currently creating a confining reality for all of us, will cease to exist, and the need for Heimdallr, guardian of the bridge, will be no longer. Hence, they kill each other. Heimdallr is always depicted carrying a sword and decides who comes and who passes. Although the Bifrost Bridge is strong and connects directly to Asgard, it will break when Muspel's lads attempt to cross it. In Norse texts, it's said that the gods do not deserve blame for the breaking of the bridge, for there is nothing in this world that will be secure when Muspel's sons attack. The etymology of Muspel is world destroyers, or wreck of the world. Put plainly, the stories about the Muspel and the Bifrost Bridge are telling us those who possess qualities of hate and destruction are not able to pass through the Bifrost. It will shatter before being able to reach Asgard. So if one were to enter the center hole with malintent, they would not be able to pass. This might be due to the fact that the hole would close up or disappear interdimensionally. These are things I'm still looking into. In the Bible, it said that a cherub with a flaming sword was placed by God at the gates of the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve were banished from it. At the east of the Garden of Eden, he stationed the cherubim and the flaming sword which turned every direction to guard the way to the Tree of Life. The Garden of Eden is where we need to get back to, and we must pass without any hate in our hearts or malintent in our spirits. The flaming sword will be the judge, just like Heimdallr. This is why, in the meantime, we must charge everything around us with love and compassion. We must keep our eyes on the prize, which is creating heaven on earth through the powers of divine intention. There's parallels with the flaming sword and the Welsh Dyrnwyn. It's said that when the sword is drawn by a worthy man, the fire will help him in his cause, but its fire will burn the man who draws it for an unworthy purpose. For those of you who are new to these videos, please do a quick search on blood over intent. This matrix we're in can be reprogrammed with spilling our blood over our divine intent, and there's a lot of us doing it. Replicate the videos and start removing the hexes this reality has placed on all of us. In time, we will cross the Bifrost Bridge. I hope you all are doing great. Thanks for watching. I love you all.